For 2,000 years, skeptics had a favorite target in the Gospel of John, the story of a miraculous healing. A blind man, a command from Jesus, and a place called the Pool of Siloam. They called it a myth, an allegory, a nice story with no basis in reality, all for one simple reason. The pool had never been found. It was, they claimed, proof that the Gospels couldn't be trusted as history. For centuries, the scholarly consensus was that the author of John's Gospel was writing theology, not an eyewitness account, using a fictional place to make a religious point. Princeton scholar James Charlesworth said many believe John was just using a religious conceit. The argument was simple but powerful. If the place isn't real, how can the event be? And then, in 2004, a broken sewer pipe changed everything. The account in John, chapter 9, is one of the most vivid miracles in the New Testament. Jesus and his disciples see a man born blind, and his disciples ask a question we still ask today. Who sinned? Was it this man or his parents? Jesus gives a profound answer, saying it wasn't about blame, but an opportunity for God's work to be revealed. Then he does something strange. He spits on the ground, makes some mud, and puts it on the man's eyes. Then he gives a command. Go, wash in the Pool of Siloam. The man obeys. He finds his way to this pool, washes, and comes back seeing. It's a story of immediate life-altering transformation. But for critics, the story had a fatal flaw. While other places in Jerusalem were well known, the Pool of Siloam from this Second Temple period was completely missing. For 2,000 years, the story just hung there in historical limbo. Believers took it on faith. Skeptics pointed to the missing evidence as proof that John's Gospel wasn't historically reliable. Sure, there was a site people thought was the pool, built by the Byzantine Empress Eudocia in the 5th century, but that was a commemoration, built 400 years after Jesus. It didn't fit the historical descriptions of a major pilgrimage site. This glaring absence allowed scholars to argue that John, writing decades after the fact, was more of a theologian than a historian. The name Siloam means sent, so they argued the author cleverly invented a location to create a metaphor. Jesus, the one sent from God, sends the blind man to a pool called Sent. It was a neat literary device, they said, but it wasn't history, and that viewpoint was so common that the Pool of Siloam became a poster child for the Bible's supposed unreliability. After all, if you can't trust the author on basic geography, how can you trust him on a miracle? The story of the blind man was dismissed as pious fiction. The truth, it turns out, wasn't lost, just buried. It was lying dormant under centuries of dirt, waiting for a completely random moment to be revealed. That moment came in June 2004. In the City of David area, just south of the Temple Mount, a construction crew was digging a trench to repair a burst sewer line. Just a routine job in a modern city. But as their backhoe scraped away layers of earth, it hit something solid. Not just rock, but cut stone steps. 2 of them. In a place as historically dense as Jerusalem, the law says you stop digging and call the archaeologists. The work halted, and archaeologists Ronnie Reich and Eli Shukron arrived. Both were seasoned experts who had spent their careers excavating the City of David. When they saw the steps, they knew. This wasn't some random structure. The location was perfect, tucked into the Tyropoean Valley at the southern end of the City of David. They suspected the steps could be part of something big, so they immediately started a careful excavation. As they cleared away more earth, the picture grew clearer and more astonishing than they could have imagined. More steps appeared, and then more. This wasn't just a staircase, it was part of a colossal structure. A massive, ancient pool began to emerge from the ground. Reich and Shukron realized they were on the verge of a find that could change history. Its location, fed by an ancient water channel from the Gihon spring, was exactly where a First Temple period ritual bath should be. For the first time in nearly 2 millennia, the original Pool of Siloam was seeing the light of day. A simple sewer repair was about to provide a tangible link to the world of the New Testament and challenge centuries of skepticism. The years of doubt were about to be washed away. What Reich and Shukron began to unearth was staggering. Those first few steps were just the tip of the iceberg. As the dig expanded, it was clear this was a monumental pool. It was trapezoidal in shape and an incredible 225 feet long on one side. That's roughly the length of 2 Olympic swimming pools. The design itself was brilliant. The pool had wide sets of steps on at least 3 sides. Archaeologists believe this allowed large groups of people to enter the water at once, regardless of the water level, which would change with the seasons. It was built for crowds. This was a grand, public work, perfectly suited for the thousands of pilgrims who flooded Jerusalem for feasts like Passover, Shavuot, and Sukkot. And this pool was the endpoint of a critically important and much older water system. Its water came from the Gihon spring, Jerusalem's only reliable source of fresh water. Centuries earlier, around 700 BCE, King Hezekiah had faced an Assyrian siege. To protect the water supply, he ordered an incredible engineering feat, a 1,750-foot tunnel carved through solid rock to bring water from the spring outside the walls to a reservoir inside the city. This very project is recorded in the Old Testament, and the famous Siloam inscription found in 1880 describes how 2 teams of diggers miraculously met in the middle. The pool, discovered in 2004, was the destination for that ancient waterway. It served as a mikveh, a ritual bath for pilgrims to purify themselves before walking up to the temple. Think about that. The same water system that saved Jerusalem from an Assyrian king in the Old Testament was the setting for a blind man's healing by the Messiah in the New Testament. More recently, in August 2025, archaeologists announced another discovery nearby, a massive 2,800-year-old dam. It was part of the area's sophisticated water management system developed centuries before Jesus, during the reigns of Kings Joash or Amaziah. This wasn't just a simple basin. The Pool of Siloam was the culmination of centuries of brilliant engineering. The evidence was overwhelming. This was a real, functional, and central location in ancient Jerusalem. The size and location were compelling, but the final, indisputable proof came from the smallest of artifacts. To prove this was the pool from Jesus' time, archaeologists had to date it precisely to the Second Temple period, and that confirmation came sealed in the plaster of the pool itself. As the team carefully excavated, they found crucial evidence embedded in the plaster and pressed into the earth. Coins, lots of them. They found a wealth of coins from the first Jewish revolt against Rome, 66 to 70 AD, which perfectly brackets the end of the pool's life. It was clearly in use right up until Jerusalem's destruction, but the most significant finds were even older. Archaeologists unearthed numerous coins minted during the reign of Alexander Jannaeus, a Hasmonean king, who ruled from 103 to 76 BC. These coins helped date the pool's construction to the Hasmonean period in the late 2nd or early 1st century BCE. The evidentiary slam dunk, however, was the discovery of coins dating to the time of Jesus' ministry. This provided a direct, tangible link between the physical pool and the historical time frame of the Gospel of John. It proved, beyond a reasonable doubt, that the Pool of Siloam wasn't a later Byzantine creation or a figment of a theologian's imagination. It was a real, functioning pool when Jesus walked the streets of Jerusalem. This numismatic evidence was the final nail in the coffin for the argument that John's Gospel was geographically unreliable. New Testament scholar James Charlesworth, who had once favored the religious conceit theory, was profoundly moved. He stated, "Now we have found the Pool of Siloam, exactly where John said it was." He concluded that a gospel once dismissed as pure theology is now shown to be grounded in history. The coins didn't just date a structure, they validated a scripture. The pool was a world-changing discovery, but what archaeologists found next brought the story of John 9 into even sharper focus. They didn't just find a place, they found a path. Leading away from the Pool of Siloam and heading north up the hill was another stunning discovery, a monumental ancient road. This wasn't just some dirt track, it was a grand pilgrimage thoroughfare over half a mile long, paved with massive finely cut limestone slabs. This road connected the Pool of Siloam at the city's lowest point directly to the sacred entrance of the Temple Mount. For the first time, archaeologists could trace the actual physical journey millions of ancient pilgrims would have taken. Imagine the scene. A pilgrim arrives in Jerusalem. They would first go down to the Pool of Siloam to ritually cleanse themselves. Then, purified, they would begin their ascent on this very road, a half-mile journey climbing nearly 400 feet, with the glorious temple coming into view. This was the spiritual artery of Jerusalem. Now think about the blind man again. Jesus didn't send him to some forgotten pond. He sent him to one of the most public and significant locations in the entire city. The man would have had to navigate, blind, to this bustling public site, wash as commanded, and then, with his sight restored, he would have been standing at the very start of the holy path to God's temple. His healing was an incredibly public event. The road would have been teeming with other pilgrims. His transformation from a known beggar to a seeing man would have been an undeniable public testimony. The discovery of this pilgrimage road transforms the story from a private healing into a grand public declaration. The physical evidence shows us that the man's journey from blindness to sight was woven into the central spiritual journey of his entire culture. So why does a 2,000-year-old pool buried under a Jerusalem street matter so much? Because it directly confronts and refutes centuries of skepticism aimed at the Gospel of John. For generations, critics confidently declared that the Pool of Siloam was a myth. Their dismissal of the fourth Gospel was built on this idea. The missing pool was their Exhibit A. But the discovery in 2004 and the excavations since have systematically dismantled that argument. The pool is real. Its monumental scale fits its historical importance. The coins date it perfectly to the time of Jesus. The pilgrimage road connects it directly to the temple. Every piece of evidence slots into place, creating a picture of ancient Jerusalem that aligns exactly with the account in the Gospel of John. This is more than just an interesting archaeological find. It's a paradigm shift. It forces a re-evaluation of the sources. It proves the author of John's Gospel had an intimate, eyewitness knowledge of Jerusalem before its destruction in 70 AD. He wasn't inventing a symbolic landscape. He was reporting events that happened in a real place. The implication is immense. If John was right about the Pool of Siloam, a detail so many experts were sure he got wrong, what else was he right about? The discovery lends powerful credibility to the rest of his testimony. It suggests that if he was a reliable narrator of geography, he may also be a reliable narrator of the miracles he recorded. This is why the Pool of Siloam is hailed as one of the most important biblical discoveries ever made. It's a case where the dirt and stones of archaeology provide tangible evidence that affirms the ancient scriptures. In the words of the Bible itself, the stones are crying out. The excavation of the Pool of Siloam, and the pilgrimage road is still ongoing. The full site is being prepared to be opened to the public for the first time in 2,000 years. If you find this connection between history and faith as powerful as we do, make sure you subscribe and click the bell. You won't want to miss updates on this and other incredible findings. And we want to hear from you. What biblical discovery do you find the most compelling? Let us know in the comments below. The story of the Pool of Siloam is ultimately a story about seeing. It started with a man blind from birth who was sent to a pool that the world, for 2,000 years, was blind to. Skeptics, confident in their theories, couldn't see the historical truth hidden right beneath their feet. They saw only a myth, an allegory, but then a broken pipe, and a team of dedicated archaeologists opened the world's eyes. The discovery of the pool, its steps, its coins, and the Pilgrim's Road reminds us that an absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. And perhaps the Bible's historical reliability shouldn't be so easily dismissed. Today, the Pool of Siloam stands as a powerful testament to the enduring truth of the Scriptures. It challenges all of us to reconsider the words of the Gospel of John, not as myth, but as history. The unearthing of this sacred site is a modern-day journey from darkness to light, from blindness to sight. For as Jesus himself declared in that very chapter, "For judgment I have come into this world, so that the blind will see." Thanks to a chance discovery, we can now see the world of the Bible more clearly than ever before.
This book is your beginner's guide to understanding Scripture. Find peace, build relationships, and discover purpose in today's world. Ready to decode the Bible? Find Bible Decoded available on Amazon now.
If this content blesses you and you'd like to support our mission, you can buy me a coffee or give a super thanks. Every contribution helps us create more content to inspire and uplift others. Make sure to subscribe so you don't miss out on my future videos.
Templar.